Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where you get the inside access to the best minds in the game. Each week, Chris has the privilege of chatting with top instructors, legendary players, course architects, and industry insiders. If you're looking to improve your game, gain a new perspective, or just hear some incredible golf stories, you are indeed in the right place.
You see, Chris, let me tell you something. I haven't spoken to a press man in my life that is knowledgeable, seriously, as you are. Never.
You do such a great job. It kind of makes me feel good all of a sudden.
You do so much for the game. You're so kind to all of us that are out there in the game. You know, we need more people like you in the game of golf.
Thank you for pressing play. Now, grab your clubs, step up to the tee, and let's get started. This is Next on the Tee.
Hi, folks, and welcome into this special Masters wrap-up edition of Next on the Tee, where golf legends live and the game gets better. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and as always, I really appreciate you pressing play and choosing this show to be a part of your weekly golf content. And boy, do I have an amazing episode in store for you. Every year for the last several, I've had the privilege of recapping the Masters and Masters Week with the godfather of talk radio, golf radio shows, and a legend in and around the city of Augusta and the tournament, and that is John Patrick. John has covered the Masters for 42 years now. And if you're a Masters fanatic like I am and you can't get enough of Augusta National in the tournament, you've probably actually seen John in their Hallowed Grounds series. He was a part of that. Go check that out. There's no better way to illustrate his importance in and around this tournament than by saying, back in 2020, when the tournament was moved, you remember, from its traditional first week of April to November due to COVID, Augusta National handed out one media credential that year, and that one went to John Patrick. During this segment, I get John's insights on the history that he has seen over those 42 years, where these back-to-back wins put Rory historically among the all-time greats, and he and Scottie, are they the new Arnie and Jack? Will they be putting the green jacket on each other for the next at least few years? We'll hear what John has to say about that. We also talk about how the grounds and the infrastructure around Augusta National have evolved over the years, and what Augusta National is doing now to see how tickets that they issue, right? If you win the lottery, you get your tickets, how they're traveling around from the initial person who buys them to sometimes to a different person who ends up trying to walk through the gates. So leave it to Augusta National to figure out a way to put all the end of the shenanigans about whether it's StubHub or eBay or however people are trying to sell those tickets on the secondary market, how to figure out a way to put a stop to all of those things. So you'll hear about all that with John. Following him is another wonderful friend who is amazing behind the microphone now and was a fantastic player when he was playing in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, and that is Frank Nobilo. As you may remember, as a player back in the 90s, Frank finished in the top 10 in all four majors in the mid-90s. He's now crushing it, of course, for CBS Sports and their Masters coverage. More specifically, I get his insights on what it was like as a player when he was trying to make his way around Amen Corner and trying to judge those wins on the 12th tee to figure out which club to pull. I also get his thoughts, of course, on Rory's wins, what he thinks it would be like to be a fly on the wall during the Champions Dinner, and then we look ahead to the PGA Championship that they'll be covering later on this year at Aronimink. I round out this episode with a return visit from my Goomba, Rob Strano. Rob grew up playing the same country club that 1968 Masters champion Bob Goalby belonged to, so you'll hear a little bit about their relationship again. He, of course, also weighs in on the tournament and get his thoughts on Rory and what he saw as Rory was making his way through the front nine to the back nine and the ebbs and flows and the round. Plus, talking about your swing. Rob talks about how when the pressure's on, sometimes you just got to trust your swing. So you'll hear about that. Plus the great work his son Steve is doing to help revive the Odie Chrisman putter line. Steve was on the show late last year. If you haven't listened to that and learned about the whole story of Odie Chrisman and their fantastic putters and their hickory shafts and all the great things. I mean, he caused a lot of stir at the PGA Merchandise Show. He carried around one of those putters. Everyone wanted to see it and try to hold it and play around with it, so you'll hear about that as well. So, folks, it's a great show on tap for you this week, full of amazing people who've got fantastic stories. Thank you again for pressing play and taking the journey with me this week. So sit back, like I say all the time, relax, let us take your mind off everything else going on in your life for the next, 90 minutes or so. One last thing before we get started. If you would please do me a huge favor, wherever you're listening to this show now, if you would take just a few seconds and subscribe to it. It would go a long way towards getting the show in front of more wonderful golf enthusiasts just like you, make a huge difference for what the show is doing and what we're trying to achieve here. So thank you so much again for being here and for being a subscriber. Okay, I like to get things started shouting out the wonderful people that help to sponsor this show, starting with my great friends over at the Trib. TribLive.com is the leading news website in Western Pennsylvania, with news around the clock, Pittsburgh pro sports coverage, a high school sports network, and a podcast network, which is where you can find Next on the Tee. Bookmark TribLive.com or download the Trib Live app for free and stay up to date with the latest news from Western Pennsylvania and beyond. I also want to talk about our friends over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company and Iron City Beer, a brand that I have loved my whole life and started drinking when I was 21 years old, of course. Whether you're a hacker or a scratcher, the secret to a successful day on the links is knowing when it's time to grab an iron, even if that means keeping it in the bag till the 19th hole. If it's been a while since you've reached for Pittsburgh staple beer, it's time to revisit Iron City. Thanks to their incredible new facility in Creighton, the best-tasting Iron City beer ever made is now available at a course near you. Iron City pairs well with any lie and sky and serves as a friendly reminder that there's always next round. And because it's never too early for chocolate, their double chocolate Bock is back for the season, and it's the perfect companion for a cozy winter evening. Check out all of their wonderful beers and their gift shop by going online to pittsburghbrewing.com. In golf, fast isn't a nice to have, fast is a necessity, and speed off the tee is where it all starts. That was precisely the thinking behind the all-new QI4D family of drivers from TaylorMade, our fastest, most fittable drivers. Built to meet the demands of the world's best players like Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Nelly Korda, and the rest of Team TaylorMade. The QI4D lineup was engineered to unlock the 4 dimensions of speed, starting with a multi-material driver head with enhanced aerodynamic shaping, combined with a faster face and our revolutionary React shaft system. The TaylorMade QI4D drivers are ready to extract every bit of speed from every golfer's unique swing profile. Our industry-leading adjustability and fitting unlocks it all. Watch the full story of QI4D, our quest to build the fastest, most fittable drivers, and unlock your newfound speed at TaylorMadeGolf.com/findingfast. Now back and next on the tee with me is John Patrick. As you guys all know, for many years now, I've had the privilege of starting off Masters Week by talking with one of the all-time great legends in our game, Mr. Gary Player. And now I've gotten the last several years to finish off the week talking to equally as great a legend in our game, and that is John Patrick. I respectfully refer to John as the godfather of talk radio. John is the host of the Augusta Golf Show and Augusta's Morning News Show on WGAC. You can check out his great golf show again, AugustaGolfShow.com online, plus you can stream his morning show at WGAC.com. One of the highlights of 2025 for me was meeting John in person for the very first time. Got to do so by the big scoreboard just off the first fairway of Augusta National, and he couldn't have been any nicer or more generous with his time. I promise you, there is no one who knows the Masters Tournament, Augusta National, and the impact the tournament has had on the game and the city of Augusta better than John does. Also, when it comes to the best golf radio show and host, we are all looking up at this man. He's the one guy that Jim Nantz makes time for every year. And as I've said before, everything you need to know about his place in tournament history and the greatness of this man can be seen in the number of media credentials that Augusta National handed out in 2020 during the pandemic. There was one, and that one went to John Patrick. And I couldn't be more excited that I get the privilege of spending more time with him this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, John, how are you, my friend?
Chris, how are you, my friend? Jim always talks about, he knows his Masters Week has started when he talks to me. I know my Masters Week is coming to an end when I talk to you.
There you go. I know it was an incredibly busy week for you. How you holding up?
I'm fine. Surprisingly fine. I've realized, and maybe I always knew this, but maybe now I'm just acknowledging it. The daytime work, which is plentiful, is manageable. It's the self-inflicted wounds of going out to the various parties in the evening that does me in. I was fine until Wednesday, and Wednesday night was the first time going out. I felt it Thursday. We went out Thursday night. I felt it Friday. We went out Friday night. I felt it Saturday. So I'm fine. I'm fine. It is stupid to say, but it is somewhat a relief when it's over and I get back to a regular routine. It isn't the physical aspect of it so much anymore. It's the mental aspect. So, I'm glad to get back to the routine.
Was this Masters number, 42 for you?
Correct. 42. Yes.
Wow. Unbelievable. So you've been witness to a tremendous amount of history. If you were to look back and you got to experience one of those Masters all over again, not to change anything or just to witness it over again, where would you go?
Oh, and that's an easy answer. And maybe we've talked about this before. I grew up a Jack Nicklaus sycophant. So 1986 was my second Masters. So I never thought that I would be around for something like that. Nobody thought he was going to do anything like that. I was there, just because he was there. And lo and behold, he wins. And it's still, and I think I've said this to you before, and they did a retrospective before the final round on Sunday. In 42 years, the loudest noise I've ever heard was the noise the crowd made on his tee shot on 16. I've never, to this day, Tiger included, I've never heard anything like that.
Wow. I'm a huge Jack Nicklaus fan as well. He's my golf idol. I know that you've had an opportunity to sit down and spend some time with Jackie Nicklaus, and I can't imagine anything topping 86 in my mind for Masters wins by anybody. 75 was also a really good one. But have you had an opportunity to spend some time with Jack and talk to him about his Masters victories?
Yeah, I mean, it's, a lot. I have a lot of joy from that tournament, from that golf club, and from my experiences there. But I never in my wildest dreams, Chris, that, I would see him somewhere and he would go, "Hey, John," and I'd go, "Hey, Jack." It's unbelievable to me that we're at this point. And yes, I've had some interactions with Jack Jr. I really wanted to see him and his mom last week and never got the chance. So yeah, I mean, a lot of things have come true for me that I never imagined and never anticipated. And probably the top of that list is, "Hey, John." "Hey, Jack."
Imagine so. Do you make it a point every year now to go out and see the ceremonial first tee shot and get a close spot so you can see Mr. Nicklaus, Mr. Player, Mr. Watson? Do you make sure you've got a great opportunity and great viewpoint to see that?
I wish I did. That all ended 8 years ago when I took the job at the radio station to do morning drive. So I'm at the radio station every morning until 10. I used to do it for about 3 years. I would stand under the trees next to, God bless him, Fuzzy, and we would do inappropriate and adult only play-by-play of the three starters. And I would, I'd introduce them and I'd toss it to him and he'd have something, unprintable to say. It was, again, I'm blessed with a lot of different things, but God, those 3 years, Chris, that was so much fun. And when I took the job doing mornings, I'm no longer out there. And of course, we lost Fuzzy on Thanksgiving last year.
So this year, Rory set the record for the largest 36-hole lead, gave it all back on Saturday when the scoring average for the day was 70.63, which was a Masters record. It seems to me, John, that the worst thing that could happen to a Masters leader is to get to a 6-stroke lead heading into Saturday or Sunday. I think you'd be more worried with that kind of lead than if I were the guy chasing the guy with that kind of lead. It just seems like a 6-stroke lead is the kiss of death.
Well, you know what? At some point, he is going to make a believer out of it. I famously here in Augusta on the radio show and on my golf show gave him no chance last year. I thought he was going to have to win another major. Now we got to go back 13 months to remember where he was in, say, March of 2025. I just thought he was going to have to win another major before he had a chance at winning this major. And lo and behold, he goes ahead and wins. And lo and behold, again this year, I thought all of the distractions, all of the things he was doing were going to play a role as to whether or not he could defend, even contend. And yet when he opened up with the 67, I thought, okay, all right, you know what? This man is now engaged. Now he's in a golf tournament. Now all of that stuff before, being at Anwa, playing with his dad, Champions Dinner, that's in the past. This man's now engaged in the golf tournament. It's going to, and I don't know that I expected him to win, but I did expect him to contend. But one day I'm going to believe in this guy.
And I've never been a huge Rory fan myself, John. And I mean, I certainly empathized with him a couple of years ago when essentially Jay Monahan hung him out to dry with that whole live situation. I was really rooting this weekend for Cam Young, who I have a great deal of respect for. I think there's a lot of majors in that guy's future. And I was also rooting for Justin Rose to get it done. I feel like the golf gods owe him one there. I'm not sure at 45. And again, going back to your comments a little bit ago, I mean, we know Jack won at age 46. And then we also know Phil won a major at nearly the age of 51. But I'm waiting for Justin Rose to get it done. He has been so close so many times there. Like I said, I think the golf gods owe him one before he gets too old.
Well, on our pre-fourth round program Sunday morning, at the end of the show when we make our picks, I said my head says Cam Young, my heart says Justin. I don't think his time. It's not like he's 35 and he's had these things. He's 45. He's in excellent shape and his game is superb. But the time is not on his side. I found it pleasing when he finished his round Sunday. You could sense in the crowd an appreciation of him, of what he's been through. I mean, 3 seconds, twice in a playoff. I sensed that the crowd, I don't know if that was, who they wanted to see win, but I could sense in them an appreciation for what he's been able to do. I don't know if he's going to pull it off, but in the spirit of full disclosure, I'm the guy that didn't pick Rory last year.
I'm starting to get a sense, John. Now, we've seen Scottie win a couple of green jackets here recently, obviously Rory the last 2 years. I'm drawing some parallels to Mr. Palmer and Mr. Nicklaus back in the 60s when they were essentially handing the jacket back and forth to each other for a few years. Do you think, are we headed down the path where we could see Scottie and Rory be a dominant two? I know Mr. Player, when you add him in there for a big three, I don't think we have a big three right now, but we certainly have a big two. Could we see these guys jockeying back and forth? We wanted it so many times with Tiger and Phil, and we never really got them coming down the stretch in a major outside of potentially the 2001 Masters. Do you think we could see Scottie and Rory battling it out here for the next few years?
Well, I mean, those are a couple of different questions. Do I think we'll get to a situation where, Rory puts the jacket on Scottie next year and Scottie puts the jacket on Rory the year after that? Absolutely. I would love to think at some point we're going to get the two of them in a dogfight on the second nine. To your point, we never really got it a whole lot with Tiger and Phil, and we never really got it a whole lot with Jack and Arnold. We got it a little bit, but not as much as everybody wanted. And we haven't gotten it with them yet, truthfully. So maybe we'll see it at the U.S. Open, but I'd love to see a second nine. Scottie made it close, but they weren't together, and I'd like to see them a group apart or in the same group and firing it on all cylinders on the second nine, and just imagine the excitement and the energy that would be in the crowd that afternoon.
Yeah. One thing I do admire about Rory is that after he hits some bad shots or has a couple of bad holes, he just never gives up. His mental toughness is something that has really made an impression on me over the last couple of years. We saw it on display last year, obviously on the chip that went into the water on 13. We saw it on 17 when he hit that great shot, on 15 when he hit that great shot. This year we saw it when he fell behind by 2, actually, to Cam Young there on the front 9, and then whatever that was on the tee shot on 18. But he fired right back and made some incredible shots after that. I think it's absolutely amazing, John, what his mental toughness has become.
Well, I think, and I don't know that he knew this at the time, and Bob Rotella has been a voice in his ear, but I think he's beginning to realize, St. Andrews and Cam Smith and L.A. North and Wyndham Clark and obviously Pinehurst and Bryson. I think he's built up the scar tissue, and I think, although he didn't think it at the time, I think those things are serving him well now. And I remember when I first started doing my golf show, I don't think I ask this question much anymore, but I used to ask players, do you have to lose to learn how to win? And they would all say yes. And and Rory is on another level. I think he's coming to grips with the fact that he had to go through what he's gone through to get to this point.
With Rory achieving the career Grand Slam last year, one of only 6 guys to ever do that, and then becoming one of only 4 players to win back-to-back Masters along with Jack Cernick and Tiger, he's accomplished so much in the game. Now tied with Trevino, Phil, and Cernick with 6 majors. He's tied for 16th in wins on the PGA Tour with 30. He has several more over on the DP World Tour. For you, John, has Rory now become a top 10 player all time in your opinion?
Well, I hadn't really thought of, thinking of the 10 players. He's probably, if he's not in it, he's really close. I think the conversation about Europe's best player is over. He is Europe's best player and will be Europe's most historic player. He's probably pretty close. You and I would have to, you'd have to throw me a name and I would be like, nope, not yet. Jack, nope, not yet. Tiger, nope, not yet. Hogan, no, not yet. But he's got to be close.
So you just mentioned Europe's best player. In your mind, does he surpass Seve now on that list?
Oh yeah. With the majors, with the amount, Seve never played that much on the PGA Tour. Had a couple of wins here and there,
right?
And won his major championships. But Rory's got 30 wins on this tour. He's got the wins on the wins on the DP World Tour, the Race to Dubai championships, the FedEx Cup championships. Now a 6th major. I think it's inarguable that he is now Europe's best player. You got a guest coming on next. That'd be a good question for Frank.
Yeah. John, looking back when you first started covering the tournament, I know the media center was nothing like it is now. How have things just around the course, all the things that they've added on to, built up, renovated, modernized, all that sort of stuff over the 40 plus years that you've been there? Talk about just how everything has evolved out there on the property.
Well, it's night and day. At the time, we parked in Prussian Run on what is now the practice facility. And they weren't really scanners. They were just gates that they temporarily put up for us to walk through. The merchandise shop was a little kiosk. Hard to do $70 million a week in a little kiosk. It's night and day. When I first started doing this, we were doing our job out of an old Quonset hut from World War II. It's nowhere near the way it was. And there are people that think that a lot of the charm has gone from this event and that it's big and corporate and Disney-like. And Billy Payne is responsible, not in a bad way, but Billy Payne is responsible for a lot of that. And under Billy's tenure, he rarely touched the golf course. And I think he touched, his handprint is all over the ancillary things and the things that are outside the golf course. Chairman Ridley has done a few things, but not many, backing up 13 and things like that. I don't think Chairman Payne really ever wanted to do that. That just was not in his nature. But, things move on, Chris. I mean, there are people coming, that's 40 years ago. That's ancient history to most people. And there are people that come now that don't know it any other way. They only know the fancy merchandise shop. They only know, the way things are today. And it's really that infrastructure that's different. Once you step on the golf course, it's like it was 40 years ago. But the merchandise shop and the restrooms and the concession areas and parking, and the parking is free, and the way the gates look when you come into them, all that stuff's different.
The media center is something that jumps out at me, John, and I've not had the privilege of being inside it, but I certainly remember what the building looked like. I mean, I've been on property outside of this year every year since '01, and I certainly remember the sign and what the media center looked like, and it feels like, and you certainly have a better sense than I do, but it feels like in the blink of an eye, this tremendous media center went up. I mean, that's just how they do things at Augusta National.
First of all, the blink of an eye is that this media center is now 11 years old. We were in the old media center for 25 years. And the difference to me is the old media center, as good as it was really very functional. It was built for function. That's not to say this one is not built for function, but other things have been, comfort has been brought into this one. The only way I know how to explain it to somebody who hasn't been is if you cruise, whatever the best looking deck on that cruise ship is, that's what we're doing. That's what we got. It is very functional, but it's also comfortable. As I said, the other one just seemed to be built for function. And again, it's 11 years old, Chris. We're probably 10 years away, although I don't know that I'll be there. We're 10 years away from something new.
No doubt. And we'll be right back. You guys know what a fan I am of On Point Golf. Folks, get the #1 ball marker in the game of golf. On Point is the only 3-dimensional ball marker with alignment technology and a removable coin. It is approved for use according to the rules of golf as defined by the USGA and the R&A. As we all know, putting is all about line and pace. Mark your ball with On Point, engage with your 3-dimensional ball marker, and have more confidence in your line, execute the putt, and lower your scores. Folks, with the likes of Jim Furyk, PGA professionals, and amateurs alike out there using them now, it's the #1 ball marker in golf that actually helps you lower your scores. Go online to onpointgolf.us, read about the science behind it, then put one in your bag and make more putts. I feel like it's the 15th club in my bag. It's helped my game. Why wouldn't you let On Point help yours as well? Again, onpointgolf.us. Check them out and get one in your bag today.
PGA Tour Superstore pros aren't born. They're made. Every January, hundreds of associates talk to the top manufacturers, learn about the latest clubs, test the newest equipment, log thousands of hours of training, and together, hit over 100,000 balls, all so they can get you the perfect fit.
Now let's get back to the show. John, what are your thoughts about the craze to get tickets and the aftermarket ticket sales? Because, like I say, outside of 2020, this is the first year that I haven't been on property, and I've seen Monday practice round tickets that used to go for $500 or $600 for a pair of them in the aftermarket world, now sell for $2,000 a piece. And even the final round of the Augusta National Women's Amateur that you used to be able to get pretty cheaply, those are going for $1,000 a piece. Talk about how all of that has evolved and grown, because I really thought that reselling your tickets was a huge no-no in the eyes of the folks there at Augusta National.
Well, I can tell you where we are. Chairman Payne, again, I go back to Chairman Payne, was always unhappy with the secondary market. And he was unhappy with the secondary market because he was not making money off of his event. Other people were making money off of his event. So up went Berkman's Place, up went Map and Flag, these hospitality houses. And a couple of years ago, they became very aggressive at recouping tickets that were being sold on the secondary market. All of last year was the first year that we really heard that they were calling people over, much like at the airport, kind of taking you out of the line and asking you about your tickets. All of those tickets have chips in them, and they can scan where those tickets go. And if you have your tickets, and all of a sudden, they've sent a ticket to somebody in Tampa who's bought the tickets, and all of a sudden, through the chip, they see that thing making its way to here and here and here and here. When that ticket goes through the gate, it gets flagged, and someone is called out of line and said, "Excuse me, can we ask you where you got your tickets?" And they have collected so many tickets that it's my understanding that there are only 2 hospitality houses left in the city, where there used to be 7 or 8. I'll say something else, and I don't know that Frank saw this, noticed this, thought of this. There were a lot of empty stands, empty grandstands this year, and we in the media center were speculating that maybe that was the ticket. That was how many tickets they'd taken back. They have not, they're not going to redistribute those tickets, because if they do that, they're back in the same boat they were. People will be selling them. What they will do with those tickets is turn those into another hospitality event. They want to keep creating hospitality, but they don't want to create more tickets. So and it was an indication of how many tickets they have brought back into the fold, and we wondered out loud, was international travel down this year for a variety of reasons.
So let me take that a half step further, John. So if I was out on the secondary market and I purchased a ticket, and I've seen them on StubHub, I've seen them on eBay, I've seen them lots of places. So if I bought a ticket that obviously I didn't get through the lottery, and then I showed up at the gate with that ticket, they would confiscate that ticket from me?
Correct.
Wow, that seems harsh. I mean, I could see where, and they're like, "Hey,
well,
you
now,
bought that from Bill
Chris.
Jones."
Hold on, Christopher. They would confiscate that ticket from you, but they would then give you a ticket for the day.
Ah, okay.
And then the ticket holder this summer will get a letter saying he no longer has tickets.
Yeah. Now that makes sense to me. Yes. Go after the guy who sold it, not the guy who bought it.
Yes. And if you think about it, the original ticket holder has no idea this has gone on unless, think about how this would have to happen. You've come in, you've had your ticket taken away from you. You still go to the event. What do you then do? Tell the broker, "Hey, I thought you might want to know they took my ticket away from me." And then what? Is the broker going to call the ticket holder and say, "Hey, you need to know this"? I think the letters that come to the ticket holders in the summer are a surprise.
Makes sense. Now, you mentioned this a moment ago, but the National has added a lot of property over the years. We know that the course has changed with things like the lengthening of the holes. Like you mentioned, with 13, we've seen several holes get lengthened. We've seen trees get added and removed, particularly on 11. Lots have been bought up to allow that free additional parking, as that amount of parking has grown over the years. But talk about where you think the National is 5-10 years from now. There's so many things that have been speculated about. There's so many things in the rumor mill. They're going to build a second course that'll host the Augusta National Women's Amateur on a separate place years from now, and lots of other things. Where do you think they are down the road?
I don't think they want anything to do with another golf course. There are some things going on with the women's amateur that may be made public, in the next year or two. They don't tamp down the rumor that they want to build another exit ramp from I-20. They don't dismiss that, but they operate 10 years in the future. Trust me, there is always a 10-year plan that just keeps revolving. I don't know if we're in year 7 of the current 10-year plan, if we're in year 10 of the current 10-year plan, and another one starts up, but they always seem to be 10 years forward thinking. But none of us here in town, know what that means.
There's the infamous couple, and I don't know if this is still the case, but the infamous couple that were the lone holdouts for their homestead that they weren't willing to sell. I believe both the parents, the husband and the wife that own the house, I think have since passed. I think he passed several years ago, and as I recall reading, I think she passed a couple of years ago. Is that house still the lone standout, or have they finally gotten that one?
There is still an occupant of that house, but it's our understanding that the house has been purchased. They just are, they don't need it. They don't need to rush anything. When and if it's proper, it will become property of the club, and they'll probably demolish it and create more parking. But it's our understanding here in town that they've purchased that. It's just they don't need it right now, and there's no sense in rushing.
If you were on the committee, is there something you'd like to see the folks at Augusta National do? Is there something you wish that they would do more of, less of, adding, subtracting? What would John Patrick like to see?
I think they need to be very conscious, and the chairman sort of alluded to this on Wednesday. A few years back, they had the guys from Dude Perfect out on the golf course, and he mentioned that maybe he's rethought that, and maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. I think they're quick to embrace more than they used to, and I think they still have to temper that. Now, I don't know what they don't embrace. They may be getting a lot of things they turn down. I would have loved to have been in the room when somebody brought the gnome idea to them. But I think they just have to be very mindful about just how fast they're going. I don't think they're going terribly fast, but I think, things around them are moving quickly. And I think if they try to keep up with them, as to the chairman's point, he sometimes looks back at it and goes, I don't know. A great example, we heard a lot this year, a lot of noise about the par 3 tournament, and maybe it's gotten out of hand. Maybe, Jason Kelsey doesn't need to be there. Maybe Kevin Hart doesn't need to be there. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised, Chris, if that's something that they kind of begin to rethink, and it would be subtle. I don't think they'd make an announcement about it, but I think all of a sudden there wouldn't be Jason Kelsey there. All of a sudden there wouldn't be Kevin Hart. The kids stay, but maybe some of that gets rethought.
So I got to ask you, since you brought it up, the whole gnome craze, like, where did that come from?
It came from 2016, and one just recently went on auction and sold for $28,000.
Oh my goodness!
Again, I would have liked to have been in the meeting when somebody pitched that to them. We get a sense that they're done with it. They put something out at Berkman's Place this year. That was a collectible. It was a very beautifully, boxed up, smaller version of all available gnomes for $1,500. It doesn't sound like something they would do if they were then next year going to introduce another gnome. So
yeah,
and I think they think, and they wouldn't be wrong in this. I think they think it's a little unseemly to have the lines, to have the rush, to have people want to get that. I mean, a lot of the ticket holders for the women's amateur are ticket holders for the women's amateur because they know they get first crack at the merchandise shop.
Yes.
So I think they think about that, and I'm not going to be surprised at all if this was the final year of the gnome.
So, John, looking out to the rest of 2026, what's on your calendar? What's the rest of your year look like?
I'm going to try and play some great golf courses.
Where are you going?
We're heading to Pinehurst this weekend, just for some R&R. It's necessary. There is, God, now this sounds bougie and arrogant, Chris. There is somewhat of an invitation to Pine Valley. There is an invitation to National Golf Links sitting out there. I got a buddy of mine who never has a bucket list, but he's got one thing on his bucket list, and that's Sandhills. And we're going to try to go to Sandhills at some point this summer. God, that just sounds horrible. But that's,
no, it sounds great. What are you kidding me?
I know, but it's just as this friend of mine is my conscience, and I've had the pleasure and the opportunity to play Augusta National numerous times, and he's the one that stands next to me when someone asks, Have you ever played it? Yes, I have. Have you played it more than once? And he just said, just tell them yes. They don't need to know how often.
John, before I let you go, let our listeners know again, how can they stay up to date with all the great things you're out there doing, whether they're following you online or it's on social media?
Well, okay, social media at Augusta Golf Show. If you care to listen to our morning show here in town, there's a WGAC app, and the website is AugustaGolfShow.com. Now you have to promise me, because I'm now going to program your program. I see Frank is sitting and ready to go. Frank and I had a nice conversation a couple of years ago under the trees about our daughters. So you need to ask Frank how his daughter is doing, because I did not catch up with him this year.
I will absolutely do that for you, my friend. John, I can't thank you enough. You know how much you mean to me. You are just the greatest that there's ever been, whether it's in the back, going back at history, present, or in the future. We, like I said in your intro, we are all looking up at you on the list of the greatest of all time. I can't thank you enough for your generosity over the years towards me, how much you, like I say, not only have you meant to me, but you've meant to the growth of the show, and how generous you've been with your time. You're just the best, my friend.
Well, there is nobody better than you. There is nobody nicer than you in this business, and I deeply appreciate that.
Take care, my friend. All the best to you and your family. I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thanks, Chris.
See you, John.
See you.
That is the great John Patrick, folks. They don't come better than that man. What a wonderful human being he is. At Augusta Golf Show is where you're going to find him, out on social media. WGAC.com is where you can listen to his morning radio show. You can stream that on the WGAC app. And just from a wonderful human being perspective, like I say, he has meant so much to me and this show over the years. I can't thank him enough for his generosity. Like he said at the beginning, he's joined me for so many years right after the Masters. And from an exhaustion perspective, the hours and the time that he puts into doing his show and being out on the grounds and all the events around Masters and the Masters Week, and then to be gracious enough to come here on this show to kind of wrap it all up is just huge. That just tells you, again, we talked about all the things that make John Patrick great. That's just another one of those key elements in that mix. He has been a tremendous guest and a huge mentor to me. And like I say, a guy who's just been so generous and with helping me out over the years. Can't thank him enough for all of those things. And I'm very excited for him to go play a lot of golf, and a lot of great golf courses are good for John. But I can't wait to catch up with him. I hope it isn't all the way around to next Masters year. I hope it's very soon. So thank you to John for always being so great. Coming up next is a guy who finished in the top 10 of all four majors back in the 90s and is now knocking it out of the park for CBS Sports, and that is Frank Nobilo. Before Frank joins me, let me remind you about the great things going on up at Macklemore, because this year, get ready to experience a game like never before at the Keep, the brand new Bill Bergen and Reese Jones co-designed course at Macklemore. With its challenging layout and awe-inspiring views, every round here is an unforgettable adventure. Whether you're taking on the signature holes or just soaking in the scenery, the Keep is where your best golf meets nature's finest backdrop. So grab your clubs and join us up at Macklemore. The Keep is open and it's waiting for you. And folks, if you haven't tried 2-under yet, you really need to. Why? Well, from the first tee to the clubhouse, 2-under's Joey Pouch is going to keep you comfortable and locked in all round or all day. Build your own bundle by going online to 2-under, that's the number 2, UNDR.com, and save up to 20%. Now back and next on the tee with me is one of the top players from the 1980s and 90s and one of the great broadcasters and analysts of our time, and that is Frank Nobilo. Frank makes every broadcast that he is a part of infinitely better because of his knowledge and his style. Going back to the early days of his golf career, Frank won the New Zealand Amateur Championship at the age of 18, becoming the second youngest player to ever win that title. He turned pro in 1979, got his first professional win at the 1982 New South Wales PGA Championship. He won the New Zealand PGA Championship twice in 1985 and again in 87. He joined the European Tour in 1985 and got his first win over there at the 1988 PLM Open. Frank won 14 times around the world, including 2 Saracen World Opens and the 1997 Greater Greensboro Classic. He played on 3 International Presidents Cup teams. In the mid-90s, he recorded top 10 finishes in all 4 majors. He joined the Golf Channel in 2004 and was a lead analyst for their PGA Tour coverage, plus their studio shows, Golf Central and Live From. He's now knocking it out of the park for CBS Sports and was great during their coverage of the Masters again this year, and I am honored he is back with me again this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Frank, how are you, my friend?
Thank you very much, Chris. Yeah, I think you just defined the word old, actually, putting that out. But it was so great to hear John's voice. He's right. We didn't catch up this year. I would always jump in the car when I drive from Orlando. I always like driving up to try and get in the mood for the Masters, and I would always try and tune onto his show because it always sort of put me in the right mood. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of his as well.
I don't know if you heard the tail end of the segment, but he certainly wanted to wish you and your daughter, all his best. So I want to make sure I pass that along.
Please thank him. Yes, please thank him.
So, Frank, great job as always this year broadcasting the Masters. You have a unique perspective that most don't because you played in the tournament 4 times and you've been a part of the CBS broadcast team there for the last 12 years. I feel like Masters Week has a different feel, if you will, than other weeks during the golf season. Does it feel differently to you?
Yeah, it does. I think that's a great observation. Every year is different. I remember meeting Billy Packer once, and I've picked everybody's brain that I've worked with, whether it's Peter Ellis, Dan Hicks, obviously Jim Nance, who I get to work with, Terry Gannon, you name it. Every broadcaster analyst, you try and sort of find out what makes them tick. And I remember talking to Billy Packer. It's got to be 20 years ago. And I asked him how he called a basketball game. And I'll use the analogy of, because my college ball is not very good. And I'll just say, if the Lakers were going to play the Celtics. And he said, well, I'd think about, how the Celtics would beat the Lakers. And then I would think about how the Lakers would be the Celtics. And I was sort of thinking, well, I've sort of wasted my time with a question. I'm not really getting anything that's going to help me going down the line. And then I was just about to change the conversation. He goes, but then the magic happens. He says, I watched the ball. And I thought that was one of the best things I'd ever heard in broadcasting is that, you try and plan for everything in some respects, but the definitive thing, I think for the people at home, it's exactly the same is watch the ball and see what's going on. Is someone losing the lead, gaining the lead? So to answer your question, yeah, you try and prep. Is the golf course firmer? Is it faster? Is it softer? Is it greener? Is it going to be windier, hotter, colder, whatever? Who's playing well? Who's not playing well? Who could find lightning in a bottle? Who couldn't? And then in the end, you just try and trust your eyes.
Frank, when I think about people that are tuning in and watching, and everybody's a critic nowadays. I mean, social media and Twitter is a cesspool of negativity, but everyone's a critic. Everyone, has an opinion about how they should have done this differently. They should have done that differently. But I can't imagine that there's a tougher critic, and like I say, some are out there pointing fingers at this year's broadcast, but I can't imagine that there is a tougher critic than Chairman Ridley and the members of Augusta National, because, correct me if I'm wrong here, but, you've got a lot of bosses there at CBS Sports, but for that week, I think the biggest boss is Chairman Ridley and all the members of Augusta National. When you guys get done on, whether it's on Sunday after the tournament, if it's Monday in retrospect, do you sit down with the folks at Augusta National and just kind of talk through about, how things went? What did you think? Get some feedback. Is there an exchange of ideas? This went well. That didn't go well. Let's try this. Let's try that. Is there a retrospective that you guys go through after each broadcast?
Yes, there is, Chris. I'm not privy to that yet. It's an ongoing discussion. I think it's the longest sporting relationship in any sport in America. It's been going for 71 years. And that's because there is a good relationship, whether the broadcast is exceptional or struggled, whatever the case may be, because I heard a little bit what John was saying when he was talking about whether it's gnomes and all these other things. I think, what Chairman Ridley has done extremely well and what his predecessor, Billy Payne, did is they're very conscious of the next generation. And, I've been privy to be part of the Asia Pacific Amateur Championship for, I'm going to say it's 14, nearly 15 years. they have LatNam. I haven't done that. Obviously, Anwar, Drive, Chip and Putt are great initiatives, and they are for the next generation. So I think some of the things that Augusta National is trying to do is to be very, very conscious of the game going forward. With regard to the telecast too, David Burson, my boss, Sellers Shy, my producer, I have the utmost faith in that. And they're always trying things. If you go back to COVID, to try and persuade Augusta National, because we weren't going to have any patrons, the use of drones. That was groundbreaking in golf. And, CBS has never been shy to try something new. We have, Steve Milton, the director, I've lost count how many Emmys he's won. His father was just as good. And they're always looking to try and up the ante. And whenever you're pushing the window, sometimes you'll make mistakes. But, I'm very honored and proud to be part of that team. As I said, you learn through osmosis and be around those broadcasters. There's no question, a bit like NBC a few years ago when, Johnny stepped down, then it was Roger Maltby and Gary Koch. I mean, they had such a great run for a long, long period of time. So they're going through that retooling phase. And, for CBS, it was Nick Faldo 3 years ago, and then Vern 2 years ago. And last year was Ian Baker Finch. So there's also a transition there that, we're aware of and trying our best. And I think the people they've put in are extremely good, and they're trying as hard as anyone else. But nothing stands still. And, with regard to the broadcast, Chairman Ridley, David Burson and Sellers Shy, they're already going over this year. And I'll hear more about that when I go to Hilton Head. That's discussions they have 12 months of the year. That's a relationship they want to continue.
Frank, preparing to do a broadcast, whether it's for the Masters or any tournament for that matter, I'm sure takes way more effort than all of us realize. I'm guessing that the effort is 10x when you're talking about getting ready to do a Masters. What would you want people to know about the effort that goes on behind the scenes, about what you guys are all doing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, prepping for the tournament proper? What's going on that people don't see behind the cameras? And then once the broadcast is over, I'm sure there's more work that has to get done preparing for the next day. Take us behind the scenes. What don't we know?
Well, we were on for 30 hours because Amazon Prime was an extra 2 hours. So that was 2 hours. And then ESPN went from 2:00 to 7:30. So I'm in my position at 11 a.m. and I don't leave till 7:30. And I'm sitting in a chair that's, in a tower that's not very big with my statistician. This year was a guy called Rick Bollier, who's done a lot more Masters than I'll probably ever do. And I'm just a cog in the wheel, because the camera crew, the sound people, they've already been there. Some of those people were there since 5:00 in the morning. So I can never complain about my workload with what they're doing. But from my point of view, you have to concentrate fiercely for about, 7.5 hours. And then it's the same in the weekend. It was 2 hours on Paramount Plus and then the CBS. But, we're very aware whether people like it or realize it or not. We've always, what's the best way to put it? We realize people have a choice. So when they're turning on their TV in their living room, it's an honor. And there's not a single one of us on that crew. There's hundreds of people in that compound. If you went in the compound, the amount of smiles and effort, nobody complained. And they're just trying to bring you, whether it's the best shot, the best sound. Hopefully we don't interfere with the shot as much. Maybe we can add a little bit of color to it. We realize we've been invited into people's living room. And like I said, it's not something we take for granted. And it is the golfing property of the year. So you can never prepare enough. Everything on the fly too, because it's, golf is the hardest sport to cover. There's balls everywhere going on. There's things going on, and plus you because Augusta is known to all the people that watch it. I think you try and, well, I can't speak for everyone else. I know I do. Is, if I said the 11th hole was the longest par 4 on the golf course, I probably said that this week anyway. But 520 yards, the person at home knows that. So the hardest thing for me is you're sort of weighing up, how much do they remember and how much do they know and how much can you put in? Because you don't want to offend people. And that maybe there are some people tuning in for the very, very first time. So you still have to put a little bit in. Well, it's downhill and it goes to the lowest point of the green. Or there's just little things. So you're always trying to balance that. So you do your homework, as I was saying, like Billy Packer, you try and figure out, why Scheffler might win, or Rory, or Russell Henley, or Cameron Young, or maybe it's somebody else. Maybe Jordan Spieth's going to do something spectacular, and then you just concentrate fiercely, and you watch and you see the ball, and if you've done your homework on the greens. I remember rolling the balls on the weekend. I was out there actually with our talent guy Ross Malloy and my statistician Rick Folio, and because they're not really going to get around. I have 2, 8, 2, 7, 11, and 16. So I know that there's key positions. For example, where Justin Rose hit it over the back. I was rolling balls from the back of the green. You see the side putt, or maybe even that 8-foot putt that Rory McIlroy had to make to maintain that lead. I think that was one of the biggest putts. Probably doesn't get enough credit, the par putt on 11. And then also 16, I looked at that green from every angle, from the Tiger Woods chip angle, and also from over the back where Rory was, just on the rough chance that somebody hit it over the back. And it would look initially that you would just play it down the hill, but you have to go up the hill, sideways. And then lo and behold, Rory comes there and he hits it in the exact same spot that we were rolling balls from. And that it literally has to be within a couple of inches on a specific spot on the top of the hill. Otherwise, he's going to make an incredible mess of it, and he's going to make bogey. And I just thought it was just a brilliant putt. And you could see, I even called it. I mean, this is perfect. You couldn't sort of place the ball on top of the hill. So you're trying to do your homework. If the breeze kicks up or it rains or something crazy happens, then once again you try and trust your experience. But I'm lucky. There's a great bunch of people around. In the production truck, I mean, they work so many hours. They try so hard. It's just great to be part of.
How do you balance painting the picture without telling us what we can obviously see with our eyes? I think you do such a wonderful job of it, and I think there are other folks that when you're watching a golf tournament, you're like, I can see that, I can see that where he's at or what he's doing. I don't need you to describe for me what my eyes can already tell me what's on the broadcast. How do you develop the skill for painting the picture and giving us what we need to know, but what isn't obvious?
I think that's the secret. I remember working in the Open Championship with Peter Ellis, and he was the first one that I think I've told you before in previous shows. Peter Ellis, one of his criticisms of American TV at times was he thought people put the spaces in the wrong places. So sometimes if you stop, then people might hang on the next word. And he was a master at that. And the other person I thought that was just brilliant at that was Vern Lundquist. And I spent a lot of time with Vern. If you go back to the famous Tiger Woods call on 16, there's a great rapport, first of all, between he and Lanny Wadkins. So Lanny Wadkins opens his eyes to potentially what Tiger Woods is trying to do with the chip, where it has to go on top of the hill. And then the rest is a broadcasting masterclass, because I think the first thing Vern says is something to the effect of, and now it starts, or as it goes back down the hill. And then Vern had that wonderful knack of, and I've said it before, really, it's Vern's voice and delivery. It's a bit like, I'm going to invite you to my birthday party, but everybody that comes is going to have a better time than me. And Vern has that ability. He welcomes you in, but never spoils it. And the timing of that call, I think, is just so perfect. So you try and learn. You make mistakes. You sometimes you get too involved in it. Sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes you just don't have anything to say that's worthwhile. I was lucky with Rory, for example. I knew that he'd gone to New Zealand. It's a story that I'd had for 5 days. Actually, Eamon Lynch had said it on the Golf Channel, and I did some more research on it. And when he had a golfing holiday in 2024 in New Zealand, and he loved it, his agent actually just said, "Why would you ever leave?" They had a wonderful time down there. And a former prime minister by the name of John Key heard about it, so he gave him, it's called a Punami stone, which is like jade or greenstone. And it was a lucky charm. And I didn't know about it last year, but it was in his bag last year. And he had it in his bag this year. And I might never have used it, but there was time when he was looking up that shot. over the back of 16, and I just sort of felt like it fit. If it didn't fit, you don't use it. I knew last year when he was on the 16th tee, for example, he did such an amazing shot into 15, and Sellers had all these incredible replays with the Patriot. I mean, it was the shot of the year. His bounce back on 15. So by the time they came to me on 16, he was already on the tee, and I knew about he and Harry and two kids growing up in Northern Ireland that it was like a dream come true. You imagine trying to win your first Masters with your childhood friend. It was different, a bit like Nicklaus and his son. But there was no time. So I knew Dottie Pepper was on the ground. She was right there with the club. So my call is now Rory McIlroy. And Dottie gave the club and laid out, and the rest was for the people at home. So you're constantly trying to weigh it up. And I don't think you ever get it right, Chris, but you just try and get as close as you can.
Frank, what would you give to be a fly on the wall during the Champions Dinner?
Oh, I've always thought there should be an extra seat for the people that probably, you always have to beat someone. Like Scottie Scheffler ran second. It's amazing to come from 12 back and be such a big feature. And, Justin Rose, for example, 3 times a runner-up, twice in a playoff. The only other person, he's the only person, obviously, to lose twice in a playoff and not win. The only other person to lose twice in the playoff is Ben Hogan. But that seat, in some respects, should be left empty for the people that, whether it's they didn't sign their scorecard properly, which happened before, or, there's so many things that Augusta is beautiful and painful. It's beautiful for the champions. But for the ones that lose, I think it's the most painful loss, because it is the only golf course that, the only major that's played on the same golf course. So as a kid, you memorize the shots that you hit by your idols. And when you actually get there and have a chance, I just think that's why it's more painful. So I don't know what I'd give. You'd probably have to start all over again. But yeah, I just think it's the neatest thing. I've talked to a bunch of people that have gone to that dinner, and they say it is really special.
I bet. I want to talk a little bit about the golf course. You've talked about the holes that you've covered over the years, and you spent so many there covering Amen Corner. 11 is the most difficult hole on the golf course. Ben Hogan said, if you ever see my ball on the green in 2, you know that I missed my second shot. Why is 11 so hard?
Length is one thing. It's the first water hole for a start. The nines used to be reversed. That was originally the second hole. And the pond was put in 1951. So originally there was a bunker in the fairway, believe it or not. The hole was, I think, probably wasn't even 400 yards, because the old school of architecture is they wanted you to start off rather sedately. You normally got a fairly easy opening hole, but like the first at St. Andrews, and then you developed into the round. Then you got some harder holes, and often there was like a soft finish. So the 11th hole originally wasn't this fearsome hole, but it then developed. They flipped the nines. They thought they could sort of dial it up a little bit, took the bunker out, added some length. And then in 1951, as soon as they put that pond in, just the whole nature of the green, the green itself changed, because the abrupt look on that left side, it's so definitive. And I think that's why Hogan would say you have to just veer to the right the whole time, because it's like a high jump. You don't carry it, you're done. The bar falls off and your jump doesn't count. It's so penal. And then if you make the mistake at 11, obviously you have water on 12, you have water on 13, 15, and 16. So you can come unstuck very, very quickly. Plus, the last part of the wrinkle, so to speak, is because it's the lowest point of the golf course. You get those wind in amongst the trees, and you can hear it sometimes whistle through the 11th hole. And that's where the flags go crazy. That's why when you see people on 12, often they're looking at 12 and the flag is going to the right, and the flag on 11 is going to the left. So you get doubt. And that's what happened to Justin Rose. He said he stood in the middle of the fairway, was playing great, and he couldn't quite get a gauge on the wind, and then all of a sudden became too cautious, took one club too many, plus the safe line, and that was the start of his demise. It's just a great hole. Strategically, it's Punisher. A 4 is a great score. 3's a rarity, but it is an absolute scorecard wrecker and Masters wrecker when you come unstuck.
Frank, just a couple more before I let you go. And let's talking about 12. It's one of the shortest par threes the guys play all season, yet it's the 4th most difficult hole on the golf course. It played over par this year. And there are so many aspects to that hole, like you just alluded to a moment ago with the wind. And I feel like it's a hole that Alistair McKenzie and Bobby Jones started to play with your mind. You talked about the wind on 11 and 12 being different. You see the guys looking to the left. You'll see them looking up to the pines to try to get an idea where the wind is up there. And then you stand on that tee shot. And, I always say that on Sunday it's a sucker pin because it looks so easy. It looks so close. But you know that the ball is going to end up in Rays Creek if you go that way. The shot is to go over the middle of the bunker. But you've had to pull that shot off a couple of times. Talk about what it's like standing on the tee at 12.
Yeah, you feel naked. The patrons go behind you. That's the best ovation I think you get as a player. You walk off 11. It's a rise up there, and you don't see 12 because you're walking back, and you see the sea of patrons. It's an amazing feeling. So then when you turn around, I think it's hard for anyone not to be affected by that for a start. And then you turn and it is the one part of the golf course where there are 0 patrons behind it. I will say one thing about the hole, though. I think players from yesteryear with the equipment played the hole better than they do now. Because the way in which clubs are designed, you want the ball to go higher, it has less spin. I think over the last 10 to 15 years, as it's become very power prejudiced, I think they've struggled on holes like that because traditionally, like a Trevino would just grab a 7-iron, for example, hit a 3/4 shot with a ball that spun more, and he could cut it in there or even draw it underneath the wind. And yeah, they might go a little long or a little short, but they could fashion a shot far easier with that equipment than they can the way in which the players are rewarded the way in which they play now. But yeah, it's such a narrow, it's a wide target, but it's not very deep, so it's very shallow. I think it's only 11 yards between the central bunker and where the back of the green is. So for most people, that's exactly one club. So you're always going to factor in a couple of yards, but if you make the mistake, bang, long. And then if you pull it a bit, you can be up in the trees. The green is not very deep, wide, and then you start messing around with the targets and the wind. It's just a beautiful par 3 that looks much simpler than it is. When you start looking at the green, you just see all these designs. Plus, it's on nearly on a 45-degree angle. So the more right you go, the further the carry. And then if you factored in the carry and you go safe, then you're going to run out of green on the left. It's perfect. It's a perfect par 3.
Looking ahead to the next major, the PGA Championship at Aronimink. It's another wonderfully historic golf course in Newton Square, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philly, a beautiful Donald Ross design. A lot of designers have had their hands on that course over the years, including now Gil Hanse most recently as he's restored it back essentially to Ross's original vision. Have you been out to Aronimink yet?
Full disclosure, never played it, never
really
been to Philly a bunch of times, played different golf courses. But yeah, the way it was never on the rotation when I was playing. And then I never called, I think it was it a PGA Championship there? Who won that? I know when they had the Truist was the year they had it. I did not work it that week. So I'm really looking forward to it. I love Philly. Always want to go up those steps and look at the Rocky statue, Eye of the Tiger. That gets you in the mood. The lovely river area there where all the rowing is done. And New Zealand was always big into rowing. So see all those rowing clubs, pretty neat when you drive out there. But yeah, it was on my bucket list when I saw it at the start of the year. I'm like, I've heard so much about it. Hopefully they're right on the money, which I'm sure they will be. But yeah, I'm going to have to get there a little earlier, do a little more homework.
Frank, you're such a great person. You give back to the game that we love. You and your wife, Selena, do such a wonderful job with your foundation, supporting underprivileged children. You also help support Sally Ride Elementary School with their reading and math programs. Your annual Lend a Hand event is in November, last November 16th and 17th. Talk about the great things you're doing around the city of Orlando and for the folks there.
Well, I'd love to take the credit, Chris, but it's my wife. If you've ever met my wife, I mean, I can't get her to stop. So I'm the one that wants to put their feet up on the couch, and she wants to help everybody. So I take zero credit. She deserves 100% on that. So yeah, that's her. She's the ever ready bunny. She's the charitable one in the family. So I don't want to take credit for that, for her work. Yeah, I'm just happy to be alongside.
Frank, before I let you go, my friend, remind our listeners how they can stay up to date with all the great things that you're out there doing, whether they're following you online, on social media, or they're watching you on TV.
Well, we have a very big schedule this year on CBS, so we'll be all the way up until the U.S. Open. Then NBC, we wish them well, have the U.S. Open, and they also have Travelers this year. Then we come back on the call till the Open Championship. NBC gets that back. And then is it the week after? And then we pick up, and we have the playoffs this year. So it's a long year, but we're up for it. So keep watching golf. I don't care, who's doing it. It's a great sport. I think we're getting a lot more younger people into the game. I think it gets older people out there too, and fresh air. It's going through a nice bloom period at the moment. So it's still a great game. Doesn't matter what your level of play is. So just get out and play.
Frank, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to come back and be a part of the show. I always look forward to getting to spend some time with you. I hope we get this privilege again with you maybe a little bit later on in the year.
As always, Chris, you take care.
You too, Frank. That is the great Frank Nobilo, folks. He talked about how he's a cog in the wheel, and he's just being way too humble. I mean, the guy is just one of the all-timers. He was a great player on tour. You don't become a top 10 finisher in all four majors by not being one of the absolute best in the era. So he did that. And then the transition from being a player to being a broadcaster doesn't just happen because someone hands you a microphone and you were a former tour player. So you just here you go be a great broadcaster. He developed a fantastic style, and he's just a treat to listen to. Shout out to our mutual friend, Keith Hirschland, too. And Frank and I have talked about Keith in the past, and they work together at the Golf Channel. But he is just an absolute golf treasure. I can't tell you how much I look forward to when I know Frank is going to be a part of the show. He has been this is the 10th time that I've had the privilege of spending some time with Frank. So that tells you how much I think of him and how grateful, by the way, that I am that he has joined me that many times. He's just like one of the best that you'll ever meet. Just a fantastic individual. And again, he gave the shout out to his wife, Selena. They're doing some great work with the Nobilo Foundation. Again, doing things for underprivileged children and for a local elementary school and what's being done there. So shout out to her. Kudos to her for the work she's doing for them as well. But follow Frank. You can get him on social media at Frank_Nobilo. Check out their foundation online at thenobilofoundation.com. I look forward to having him back on the show. Like I said, I hope we get that privilege maybe a little bit later on this summer. Coming up next is my Goomba, Rob Strano. You guys know how great Rob is from the times that he hosted the Golf Kingdom TV show to what he is doing now at his fantastic academy down in Destin, Florida. Before I bring him on, I want to remind you about our friends over at Sunday Swagger. Golf season is back, and we just had the Masters. We've got the PGA and the U.S. Open coming up on the horizon, and Sunday Swagger just made sure you're going to be ready. Their new spring collection just dropped. They've got 60 bold, performance-driven styles for men, women, and youth. And if all of that isn't enough, well, they just linked up with Pennzoil and Team Penske for a race-inspired collection that brings serious trackside energy to the fairways. With styles for men, women, and youth, you're guaranteed to turn heads and spark conversation when you wear Sunday Swagger. Visit SundaySwagger.com. Join the Sunday Club for exclusive drops and member benefits. And folks, Sunday Swagger is going to give you what? Polos with personality. Again, check them out online, SundaySwagger.com. And folks, Squares Golf, best golf shoes on the planet by far. It's not a gimmick. It's not marketing. It's science. Don't take my word for it. Let's hear from six-time major champion Sir Nick Faldo.
So Nick here. What if there was a golf shoe embraced by hundreds of thousands of golfers, celebrated for its stability, comfort and distance? What if this shoe earned the title of most technologically advanced golf shoe by Sports Illustrated? And what if the company behind that shoe spent the last year perfecting a brand new category of golf footwear? Well, the what if is here. Introducing the all-new Pro S2 LT by Squares, a new class all of its own, the perfect blend of lightweight comfort and stable performance. You'll notice the difference. Change your shoes, change your game. Squares.
Now back to the show. Okay, now back for the 25th time, which is an unbelievable privilege to say, is one of the all-time great instructors in our game and my Goomba, Rob Strano. You guys likely know Rob from the years he hosted the Golf Kingdom TV show, which you can still watch out on the show's YouTube channel. You probably also saw Rob on the Golf Channel sharing playing lessons on Golf Channel Academy. If you're at the PGA Merchandise Show, you'd know him as the mayor because he knows absolutely everybody there. You can now find Rob at his new golf academy down in Destin, Florida. Please go check it out for yourself on his Instagram page, at the Golf Kingdom. Rob is one of the most innovative guys in the instruction side of our game. Plus, he played out on tour for several years. So his expertise on what it takes to make it out on tour and to play your best golf and to have the right mindset while doing those things puts him at the top of the charts. And I am very honored. He is back with me again this week here on Next on the Tee. My Goomba, Rob, how are you, my friend?
Good evening, Chris. And wow, what a show. You've got all the O's going tonight, the big O's. You got Nobilo, Mascaro, Strano. It doesn't get any bigger O than this. Holy smokes. How do I follow Frank Nobilo?
That's a tough one, my friend. I don't know, but I know you're up to the challenge.
Great guy, does a fabulous job on TV. I've always enjoyed him and his level head he brings to everything. And, you know, the behind the eyeballs of a great player that he helps everybody see what's actually going on in the moment and just does a marvelous job.
Yes, he does. 100%. All right, so Rob, I'm completely jealous because you were at Augusta National on Tuesday. As I said throughout the show, this is the first year outside of the COVID year in 2020 that I wasn't on the grounds at some point. Let me live a little vicariously through you, my friend. What'd you see on Tuesday?
Tuesday was really amazing, and it explained what went on with the course over the weekend. When I was there on Tuesday, there were no golf balls on approach shots going backwards. Nothing was going backwards. On 10, I watched balls come in and hit on that right side of the green and go to the back of the green. And then, you know, when they moved that flag to the right side on Saturday, you saw balls coming in there and staying around that hole. And my comment was, you know, when you were 50 yards away, you could hear the ball land on the green. It had that awesome firm thud that all great greens have. So my comment to the people I was with that, you know, were my hosts for the trip there, and I was kind of their guide around the course and shared the history of Augusta and some great stories and toured them around. I said, if it stays like this, the winning score is going to be about 5 under because you're not going to be able to keep the balls on the green, whether you're putting, chipping, or let alone hitting an iron to them. So Tuesday, the greens were fire on Tuesday. It was fun to see, you know, just what they were like then and imagining what they could be. But it also explains what went on Friday night when they threw some water on them and you saw the balls coming back immediately on Saturday. And it just basically kept them alive through the weekend.
Speaking of history, and we've talked about this several times before on the show, but remind everybody, you grew up at the same country club as 1968 champion Bob Goalby. Jay Haas also there as well. And I would guess your mind when you're out there walking on Augusta National reflects back on all the great stories that Mr. Goalby shared with you over the years. You've also got to have some experiences at Augusta National that almost none of us will ever get an opportunity to do. Talk about those things and paying your respects to Mr. Goalby while you're walking on the grounds.
Well, absolutely. You know, that was when you go to the Masters archives, that's the first telecast is the year he won. And to be able to watch it and see those shots, and I know that telecast as well as anybody. And I always joke with I joked with Jerry, you know, his nephew who's my age and Mr. Goalby's sons. I said, did you ever notice what your dad did when he walked off 15 and went to the 16th tee? And they went, no, what'd he do? Or your uncle in Jerry's case. And, you know, he just eagled 15 and he's got a letter that's framed at our country club, St. Clair in Belleville, Illinois. And it's from Bobby Jones saying the 3-iron he hit in there was one of the greatest long irons that Mr. Jones had ever seen in his life. And he made the putt for eagle. And on his way to 16T, which I think is the funniest thing ever, is he stopped at the ball washer and washed his golf ball.
Wow.
Yeah, and
you
so
won't see that anymore.
The boy said, "Yeah, Dad just burning off some nervous energy there, just to kind of do something just very mundane to get ready to play the shot into 16." And what's funny about remembering that is his only 3-putt of the week came at 17, and he had a mediocre iron shot in there and left himself a long putt, not a very good lag, and by his testimony to me, it was his worst stroke of the week. And then he had to hit a really good iron shot into 18. He didn't quite get it around the corner, and he hit it on the upper level and lagged it down there to about 4 or 5 feet. And I have a picture here in my office of him making the winning putt. And I also have it at my academy, so I've got 2 copies of it. And it's funny to have him tell you the story about getting over that last putt, because fresh in his mind is the miss on 17. And he said, as I was walking and hit that putt, he said, I was in my own ear going, get up here and hit this putt like a man. Don't be a coward. Get up there, be a man, and knock this putt in. And he got up there and just poured it right in the middle.
Wow.
And of course, the rest of the story is that he ended up winning the event. And when I think about this year, when you and I ran into each other in 2019, I had lunch inside with him there, and when I was walking the grounds again this year, I looked up at the door that comes out the back top level of the clubhouse and the table just to the left of the door, and just kind of had a little tear in my eye, remembering sitting there having lunch with him and enjoying a great moment with someone who meant a lot to me in my golf career, but just meant a lot to me as a friend also. And that was my best memory of being on the grounds this year.
Rob, when I think about where we've been over the last 5 Masters, obviously Scottie has won twice and now Rory back to back, so they've won 4 of them. I'm sort of harking back to the days of yesteryear. I kind of feel like it's a Mr. Palmer, Mr. Nicklaus sort of situation when you look back into the early to mid 60s when they were putting the jacket on each other. Do you think we could see a Rory Scottie kind of rivalry not only at Augusta National, just in general, where those 2 guys could be battling it out? I mean, we didn't really get them. I mean, obviously they finished 1-2, but we didn't get them in the final group or even in the final 2 groups this year, which would have been fantastic. I think we're looking for that. I was talking to John Patrick in the first segment. We never really got that with Tiger and Phil, right? They never really battled it out in the final group or coming down the stretch. A little bit at the 2001 Masters, but not a lot. We wanted it more. And I think we even wanted it more with Mr. Palmer and Mr. Nicklaus back in the day. But I'm starting to feel like maybe Rory and Scottie could be handing the green jacket back and forth to each other for the next couple of years.
Well, the way the scoring has been going, with Rory starting off hot and Scheffler starting off cold, that ain't ever going to happen.
That's a good point.
Not happening. But yes, it would be great. But the bigger question, I think, is this one. Could Rory throw 3 in a row at us?
Ooh. The first guy ever?
Yeah, I mean, you look at how he played this year. He was lights out the first 2 days, and I said on my coach's thread on my phone, I said it's his to lose. Someone's going to have to chase him down from 6+ behind, and if he shoots even par, it might be good enough to win. And he shot, even par on the weekend and won. No one could quite chase him down. Scheffler came close and came within a whisker of making that putt on 17.
Yeah.
But, you count all the shots you miss in, I'm not just that one late. But, he did not have his best stuff on the weekend. And by his own admission, it was kind of okay on Friday. His short game on the back 9 was just monumental. And, you look at like the tee shot he hit on 18 on the 72nd hole, and you go, can you name a worse tee shot the leaders ever hit off the 18th
right?
tee? I mean, I got a text from David Ogren, who's been on the show, and his text was, are you kidding me? That's all he said after Rory's tee shot. Are you kidding me? And I'm like, and once again, he was lucky he had a swing. I mean,
yeah,
it's deep dark over there with pine trees, and to have it to where swing, opening, whatever. I mean, that could have been a Vandeveld going on there real quick.
Yeah. Well,
and so I think the three-peat is the big question for next year's Masters, obviously. But he's a guy that's legitimately got the chance because he won it, this year, and it wasn't his best stuff.
yeah, I agree with all of that. But I want to touch on what you alluded to a moment ago, because I've never been a Rory fan at all. But what I have grown to admire and respect from his game is what we've seen at Augusta National the last 2 years. Right? The train wreck that happened on 13 with the chip shot last year going into Rays Creek, and the way that he came back from that with the amazing shot on 15, another great shot on 17, recouped everything, and obviously went on to win. And then, to your point around whatever that was on 18, a lot of players, both of those times, could have gone into the tank. They could have gotten down on themselves and really gone the other way and blown both of those golf tournaments. What Rory did, and even coming off at the end of the front nine, right? I mean, he went from being up to then being 2 down to Cam Young at one point near the end of the front nine, and then still came back and all that. The mental toughness and the fortitude that he has shown when other lesser players would have gone into the tank the last 2 years, to me, is something that should be celebrated. And like I say, I really admire about him, because how tough the mental part of this game is and how most of us get down on ourselves. Rory rose above those things, and I think he should be commended for that.
Without a doubt. And what's interesting, that's a great statement on your part about mental resilience and toughness. I got a text from another top coach in the world, and he said this: over the weekend, Rory hit at least 6 shots that would wreck any of our high school boys, any one of them. He landed on the one on 18. He hit another handful that you went, where's that going? Holy smokes. And, the average player thinks they should hit it perfect every time. They think they should never hit a bad shot. Hopefully they watched the Masters and went, wow, I just saw a lot of high speed guys hit it all over creation. And then we go into problem solving mode and we figure out, how do I make this work? How do I solve this riddle and not have a calamity here because of one bad shot? And then we go to the next hole and we try to start from scratch and hit a good shot. So yes, mental resilience, mental toughness, whatever category you want to put it in, he demonstrated all of it, and everybody should learn from it. And what's interesting is all the bad shots he hit, he never once reacted like Sergio Garcia did on Sunday.
That's right. Now, on the opposite side of the luck coin, if you will, I started to feel like, based on the number of trees that Cam Young hit and it would bounce out back into the fairway, that he was sort of star-kissed, that this was it was going to be his week, and it obviously it didn't turn out that way, but the number of times he pulled a shot, off the tee and it would ricochet off the pines and end up right back in the middle of the fairway, I thought, this guy's destined to win.
You're not wrong there. I mean, I every time I see that happen on TV, I go, why would my ball always go deeper into the trash?
Yes.
It never came out. And my wife would concur with that. She goes, I've never seen you get a good bounce in your whole career. I'm like, it's just the way it is. And you learn to fight through it and giggle about it. But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of good ricochets, I thought. I mean, other than Haotong Lee, who didn't get a good ricochet, everybody else sure did. And it's funny is, on the practice day, going back to Tuesday, I saw a couple interesting things that translated to the rest of the week. Late in the day on Tuesday, Ludwig Oberg was out there, and he gets up on 13, and he hits a pine tree about 100 yards off the tee on the left. And we see this pine tree explode, and the ball comes down right where the creek kind of starts on 13 and bends into the creek on 12. So he's got to hit a full iron shot to the corner. Then he dumps it in the creek. Then he goes to play it out of the creek, leaves it in the creek, then gets it on the green and makes a smooth triple. So when I saw him struggle, I think on Saturday there, I went, yeah, I saw him struggle on Tuesday also.
Yeah, how about that?
The other side of the coin was Rory said in his presser, he said he struggled with the tee shot on 13 all week. So we get there Thursday morning, go through the merchandise center, which is what you want to do when you get there, get it done so you have the rest of the day to yourself. So we knocked that out. And no, I did not get a gnome, so don't ask me that. So even though I was there really early, did not get one. We caught Rory on 13 because he started at 7 a.m. And he hit the most perfect drive you could ask for. And then the front flag, and he hit it in there about 10 feet for eagle. So funny how from Tuesday to the competitive rounds, it flipped because he hit one tee shot on Tuesday and just smoked it. And it was perfect and hit a beautiful iron shot in there 10 feet. And none of that translated into the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday rounds.
Yeah. I wanted to get your thoughts too, Rob, sticking with Cam Young for a moment. Obviously, he won the Players earlier this year, and I felt like after he took the two-stroke lead over Rory, like I said, late on the front nine, it almost started to feel like maybe the moment was becoming too big for him because he immediately fell back and really kept falling back until he was really no longer a factor on the back nine. But did you get a sense watching him that maybe it entered his mind when he got the two-stroke lead over Rory, like, hey, I could win the Masters here, and then all of a sudden lost focus and everything kind of fell apart from there?
It's an interesting question. And the thing I've learned from hearing that question a lot is this. That question imposes everybody else's brain that's not a tour player onto the tour player. We don't think like that. Not at all. It doesn't even, if it pops into our mind, it's just an acknowledgement and we move back into the process of playing golf. I mean, you're always going to have those thoughts that pop in, but we train ourselves to pop them out, click back into playing golf. And if for some reason you can't, then you're going to struggle with it. But you got to remember, this guy's won at every level. He's won the Players. That pressure tank of his is really full. He doesn't have a lot of room in it for the butterflies to wander around or his mind to wander. And when you think about the guy that's on the bag there, these guys that are on the bag are way more in tune with their players now and know how to keep things going the way they need to go to stay in process and playing golf. So the moment too big for him, not a chance. He left himself a very difficult two putt on 6. And if you've ever been to Augusta, and if you haven't been, go look at the 6th green and look at that upper patio they're trying to hit it onto. That slope in front of the flag has got to be a 70-degree angle. It's a wall. It isn't a slope. It's a wall that this is perched on top of. It's like the Monty Python castle, and they're up there taunting you a second time. It's like, hit it here if you'd like, but try again and I will taunt you a second time. No. And to get it up there and get to stay on that plateau is just so hard. So, tough 2-putt, and he missed that putt, and then a bad approach on 7, hard bunker shot. If you've ever seen the 7th green, go look at 6 and 7. 7, I spent a lot of time standing there with Mark Sweeney from Aim Point, and we were just standing by 7 green talking about it and the course and everything, and just looking at that 7th green and just go, that green's unlike anything on the golf course because it's more like 12 than any other green. There's nothing there. I mean, you talk about, Frank was talking about over the bunker on 12, it's 11 deep. 17, not much deeper overall than 12 is overall. They're both little ribbons you hit into, and it's a tough approach. But, Cam hung in there all day, and the putter just, he just couldn't quite get a few of those putts to drop. But I never once got the sense that, the air was getting thin, where he was mentally trying to win that tournament.
Rob, Justin Rose just had so many close calls there at the Masters. He always seems to be around the top of the leaderboard, lost in a couple of playoffs, had another opportunity this year, I thought, to win it. Certainly did coming into the back nine. If you were his coach, if you were working with Justin Rose, what would you tell him about the close calls about this week. How would you help him try to get over the hump? Because I feel like he has been so close so many times. It's just razor thin for how he hasn't got at least one green jacket, if not two. How would you work with a guy like that?
That's a really good question. And Mark Blackburn's his coach, and Mark is a fabulous coach, great guy, fabulous coach. Everything you'd want as a player, someone who just leaves no stone unturned. So I'm sure they're doing a good review on that. The hard thing to Monday morning quarterback about that is I'm not standing there hearing his thoughts about what shape am I looking at here? Was it the right yardage on 11? He missed it so far to the right. Was there something there that was there that we need to talk about? Was it a bad swing? Why was it a bad swing? Like I said, was it just a bad yardage and the club didn't fit? There's a ton that goes into that. And so that's the tough thing is you need more details with the elite player to get, the onion peeled back to figure out what it is that led to the shot on 11 and then the little pitch on 12 that was kind of the unraveling of the ribbon there. But what I really liked that I heard commentator wise post Augusta was yesterday. Rocco Mediate said on his show on XM, he commented on the shot Rory hit into 12, and he said everybody lives in the old mindset of 12 too much. He said when there's no wind, it's a 9-iron. For some of these guys, it's a wedge. There's no reason to not aim at that flag. It's a 9-iron. You take that shot on. Too many guys were going left, 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 left. Rory just got up there with a 9-iron and said, I'm not going to hit it in the water. I'm not going to whiff on a 9-iron. It's a number I'm going to hit the shot just right. There's no wind. There's no risk. He took it in there just right of the flag, a little baby fade, spun it in there tight. And Rocco said, at some point, you got to say, enough of this nonsense. Enough. I've had enough. I'm taking this tournament under my control. And, going back to the Justin Rose question, the shot in on 11, yes, it's a hard shot, but it's not like the guys in the old days were hitting 3-irons in there and 4-irons. That's why Hogan said, if you see me on the green, it's a mistake, because they're hitting a 3-iron in there or a fairway wood. Now it's a mid-iron in there. It was a calm day. I don't know what the yardages were. I don't have that committed to memory, but it was probably no more than a 6-iron in their hands. And, if you like the shape, take that on at some point on the back nine. You got to win this thing, especially at Augusta. 2019, when Tiger won, a lot of guys self-destructed on 12 and handed in the lead. And he took it under his control and stiffed it on 16 and made birdie on 15 and kind of, rolled his way to that one. But at some point, in these majors, you have got to take this thing on. And 12 was a perfect example of it, where even in my mind, I'm looking at that same thought going, look, at some point, I got to have the courage. I got to say, this is the moment, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what I intend to do, and I'm going to pull it off. And you as a player, you make that decision, and you make your best move at it. And Rory just pulled it off beautifully.
So let's take that a step further, Rob, because to your point, and if you listen in back when, Phil hit that unbelievable shot on 13 from the pine straw, right between the trees and up onto the green. I mean, that's what he said, right? At some point in the golf tournament, you got to step up and you got to trust your swing. If you've got the right number, you got the right club, you got to make it, take it on and do what you need to do, right? And obviously you pulled that shot off. The opposite side of the coin is, like you said, we've seen so many guys have a train wreck on 12 because they went for the pin on the right-hand side. I was saying to Frank and to John Patrick at the beginning of the show, it's kind of like a sucker pin, I think. It looks so easy. It looks so inviting over there. But the winds are always tricky. You can never really tell what they're doing. And disaster is waiting for you, right? We all saw what happened to those guys in 19. We saw what happened to Jordan Spieth in 2016. We saw Freddie with the miracle, right? When it hung up for him, right? All those things. But, I've often wondered if you're a couple of strokes either in the lead or chasing and you're coming into that back nine, how do you know when to play it safe and when you've just got to, go all out? Because there's a disaster waiting for everybody. I mean, how many, eights, nines, and tens did we see on 15 this year? And Rory got very lucky, by the way, on 15 that his second shot, didn't hit the bank and come backwards. Somehow it just got over and didn't have spin on it. So it didn't back up into the pond because it very easily could have. I mean, it's just such a tricky thing to know when you should be aggressive and when you should just play it safe because you just never know what the guys around you are going to do.
Right. So there's a bunch of things there to tackle. Let's go back and tackle 12 first. Okay. My opinion is, in the current state of the game, with the ball going as far as it is and the lofts down, a 9-iron now is what a 7-iron used to be, loft wise, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not an exact example, but we know the lofts are down because the center of gravity is down the ball. We can launch the ball up in the air, so the ball's going farther, all that stuff. If you've got a day like Sunday with no wind on 12, and let's just say I'm 2 shots clear, okay? Well, I'm not aiming over the middle of that middle bunker where Frank said it's 11, deep there. I'm aiming over the right edge of the front bunker. That's where I'm going. Okay. I'm taking the front bunker out of play. Okay. I'm going over the right edge and I'm hitting my start line, hitting a solid short iron on that line. If I push it a little, it's golden. If I hit my shot, I'm golden. If it's a little pull, it's going to be on that back edge, kind of over the middle of the bunker. But I'm not going over the middle of that center bunker anymore. I'm moving it to the right because it's such a short club. And these guys, I'll go back to when I played. We're that good. Okay. Now, if I hit a terrible shot and hit it fat or something or thin whiff it like Jordan did, well, then, yeah, I'm going to have a problem. But I deserve when I get there. Going back to, when to step on the gas. 2 thoughts come to mind there. And one involves Jordan Spieth back the year after we lost Mr. Palmer, when he and Mike Griller were in the Pine Straw, and he looked at Mike and he said, on 13, he said, "Mike, what would Arnie do?" And Mike said he'd go for it. He said, he darn right he would. And Jordan hit it off the Pine Straw and hit it in there like 15, 20 feet on 13. And, at some point, like I said, you got to have the courage. You got to go, what would Arnie do here? Sometimes those simple thoughts at the right moments, it just clears your head and you're just on rocket fuel at that point. And then the other thing as to how to decide, I'm going to ask a question of you. You ready?
All right.
How many brains do you have?
I have one.
No, you do not.
I don't?
That is incorrect.
How many do I have?
Has 3 brains. You have 3. Okay.
Yeah.
All 3 brains are connected by the vagus nerve, which is the biggest nerve in your body. Runs from your head through your heart to your gut. Okay.
Okay.
So you got the brain. Okay.
Yeah.
That's connected to your heart. So you see a pretty girl, remember when you saw your wife?
Yeah.
Your heart started pounding. Okay. That's your heart brain right there. Okay. Let's go down to the gut. The nerve is connected to your gut. Have you ever felt queasy over a golf shot?
Of course.
Nervous over a golf shot?
Yep.
Okay. That's when you go, I might need to rethink this. When your gut brain starts telling your brain, I don't like this idea. That's when you think, okay, let's rethink what we're trying to do here. Now, there's sometimes where that moment you've got to power through it and go, I know this is a nervy shot, but I have no option B here. This is the go moment, and it's time to man up and hit a golf shot, and you fight through it. And I played a tournament a couple weeks ago and had one of those moments on a hole that didn't fit my eye, but it was a driver, and it was tight out of bounds right. I fade the ball, it's into the wind. The whole angle's in to where I'm driving it. My fade is just not a good look. And I got up there and there was a big chimney on a house off on the horizon. And I said, "Rob, see that chimney? That's your line. Aim at it. Make your swing, hit your shot, hit your start line, and just get up there and do it. And I just absolutely pure massacred. It was, there's video of me hitting the shot, and I bend over and I just kind of snatched the tee out of the ground. And my son saw the video and he goes, "Oh, I like that. Yeah, you really like that. By the way, you got that tee out of the ground, Dad." That's how good I hit it. The tee didn't even move.
That's awesome. Speaking of your son, maybe just a couple more before I let you go, Robbie. Your son, he was a great guest on the show a few months ago. He's doing some great things in the golf world as well. Remind everybody about the work he's doing.
Well, he's resurrected the Odie putter brand, and they just did a special one out there. Go out and look at it, everybody, at Odie3, OTEY 3.com. I think I got that website right, but it's Odie Chrisman putters. They did the Augusta Calcutta special line in honor of the old Augusta Calcutta story from the Masters, and they did a special putter for the tournament with that name on it. Very limited edition run, all handmade, just a beautiful looking club. But Steve, going back to last summer, he's always putted with this wooden shafted putter we called Arnie, and he putted through it with middle school, high school. It's this crazy thing he found in a lost and found bin, and he putted wonderfully with it. Well, something happened. The head fell off of it. I forget what happened to it. But he started researching online. And he found Odie Chrisman putters, and he had Odie make him a custom putter, and he went and picked it up. And they became instant friends. And he found out that Odie was kind of thinking about shuttering up the business. That he wasn't, moving any product. There wasn't any interest in it, but nobody was marketing for him. He was just, if somebody happened to, think about his name, or for some reason it came across their a website, that's the only time he sold a putter. And Steve said, "Hey, let me do a little marketing for you." So he did a little marketing on social media, and all of a sudden there was a ton of demand. So they got together and put their heads together and put together a little, branding marketing package. And now Steve's helping him. And every week, Odie can make 20 putters a week. And since they relaunched the brand back before Augusta, they have received the max orders they can get every week, and they're getting big requests from, I can't say, I'm not privileged to say, but some of the top country clubs in the country are reaching out to them going, "Hey, will you make us X amount of putters for our member guests? We like to give them away as a commemorative gift, and, special logo on them." And so it's really been fun to see what they've done, and it puts a smile on my face because, Steve said, when he goes up there now to see Odie, he's got a smile on his face and a pep in his step, and he feels reinvigorated. And to be able to make that change in someone's life is something you can't put money on.
Yeah, that's got to be hugely rewarding for him.
Amen.
And folks, again, go out there and check it out. OTEY, spell out the number 3, THRE, obviously. So Odie3.com to see what these putters are like. Steve was on the show probably about 6 months or so ago. You can go look up that episode and hear all about the things that they are doing. But these are absolutely stunning putters. And he was walking around at the PGA Merchandise Show with Odie and one of the putters, and people everywhere were pawing at him. Let me see that thing. So it was a thing of beauty.
That was so funny. We were at breakfast before we went over on day 2, and he had the putter laying on the table, and the head cover was facing away from me. And 2 guys at the third table, I saw him do a double take, and he went, "Is that an Odie Chrisman putter?" And Steve turned around and said, "Yes, it is. What do you know about Odie Chrisman?" And the guy goes, "Well, my dad had one." He said, "Can I see it?" And sure. And I ended up leaving. I had to get over to the show, and I left him talking to the guys, and it happened all over the show. It was really fun to see.
I bet it was. Rob, before I let you go, remind our listeners about your wonderful academy that you've got down there in Florida and how they can stay up to date with the great things you're doing, whether it's on your YouTube channel or it's online and on social media.
Well, I've got Strano Golf Academy down here in the Panhandle of Florida. We're the most high-tech golf academy for, as far as I can think, from here to New Orleans and up to Birmingham and over to Jacksonville. We've got motion to coach software, which is the most high-tech swing analysis software on the planet, accurate to less than a millimeter. The Well Putt putting platform, which tips and moves and puts graphics where you can see where you're aiming and where putts break. Everything we need to make players better. You can check it out at stranogolf.com. Social media, Facebook, Instagram. Instagram is under my TV show, The Golf Kingdom. And then Facebook is under Strano Golf, Rob Strano. The YouTube channel is The Golf Kingdom. All 6 shows from over 6 seasons are there of The Golf Kingdom, which was a fun variety show that I did after all my years on Golf Channel. And it's just fun to go back and look at some of the shows and some of the parody intros we did, whether it was Indiana Jones or Jerry Maguire or Batman. Just we had a lot of fun, doing stuff that parodied other pop culture things just to open the show. We had a great time, and just like I have a great time with you, Chris. An honor to be on again, and just fun to talk golf, and just be on with the best golf host I know.
I appreciate you, Rob. You're the best, my friend. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your night to come back and be a part of the show and everything that you have meant to me in the show over the years. 25 times you've been a part of it, and it's each and every time has been an education for me and just a lot of fun because you make this segment so much fun. Thank you for being here again tonight.
Hey, always great to be on. Thanks for having me on. Love talking about the Masters. And like you said, I've got a lot of great personal memories from the place and the people there. And it's always an honor to be on the grounds of the event.
Indeed.
And also to just let my motion picture reel in my head run wild while I'm there walking around.
Fantastic stuff, Rob. Look forward to catching up with you again soon, my friend.
Thanks a bunch, Chris.
See you, Rob. That is the great Rob Strano, folks. Again, Strano Golf Academy down in Florida, down in Destin, and StranoGolf.com is the website. And look, go out there and check out the Golf Kingdom on the YouTube channel. I mean, he talked about how it's a variety show, and one of the many great things about Rob Strano, and the list of great things about Rob Strano is so long, it's longer than Santa's Christmas list. The show is just so much fun. I mean, one of the things that you get to see each and every episode is Rob is one of the most creative instructors anywhere on the planet. So the sets of drills that he comes up with, the way that he puts together things that are going to help you with no matter what the thing might be. If you've got a slice, if you've got a hook, if whatever it is, Rob comes up with, and I don't know how he does it, so many creative ways that you're going to fix that thing, and the drill that you can do. A lot of those drills you could do right in your own house. So I highly encourage you to go out there and check out those 85, 86, whatever the number was, episodes, and subscribe to that and go back there and make reference points to it. And if you're anywhere near Destin, Florida, you got to go check out Rob's wonderful new academy. He's just recently moved into that, and he talked about state of the art. Go out there and check it out on his Instagram page, because that thing is one of the great academies for indoor facilities that you're going to find anywhere. I mean, the bays that he's got set up, the technology that he has available, some of the folks that he's got working with him. Shout out to our great friend Courtney Weber and what she's doing there as part of Rob's offering, and from a fitness perspective. Go out there and check it out. You should, like I say, if you're anywhere within shouting distance of Destin, that would be one of the first things that I would go out there and sign up to be a part of. Rob's going to make your game better. Courtney's going to make you feel better and have a better fitness approach to it. The things that you're going to be able to do and the instruction you're going to get from Rob is going to be second to none. You're going to be so happy. You're going to be playing the best golf of your life. Go check that out there. Rob, like I say, my Goomba, I love Rob Strano for everything that he is. Like I mentioned in his intro, he's like the mayor there at the PGA Merchandise Show. He literally knows just about everybody walking on the floor. When you're walking it with Rob, you can't go 5 feet without someone, hey, Rob, or pulling on him or that sort of thing. That's just how wonderful a human being Rob Strano is, that people enjoy being around him. I'm so privileged that I've gotten to know Rob over the years and have him as part of the show 25 times. Can't thank him enough. Look forward to catching up with him. Like I say, hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll get him back on for you. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on this episode of Next on the Tee. My sincere thanks again to John Patrick, Frank Nobilo, and Rob Strano for joining me this week. Scheduled to join me next time are our resident director of instruction, Tom Patry, will be back, as will our good friend Aaron Waltz, who is doing great things with his company in the golf simulator business. And who doesn't want a simulator in your basement or in your den? I mean, the things that Aaron is doing with his company are absolutely outstanding. Looking forward to catching up with him. Plus, University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown men's head golf coach Cody Trabert will make his next On the Tee debut with me, so you're not going to want to miss that episode. I want to thank our friends again over at Trib Live for being such wonderful partners and for hosting this show on their site. For the latest news from Western Pennsylvania and beyond, including your favorite sports, go to triblive.com. You can find this show by clicking on the Sports Section tab, and right there, front and center on the homepage of the Sports Section, you're going to find the most recent episode. Or you can type in podcast.triblive.com, click on the Next on the Tee logo, and many of the most recent episodes from this season are going to be right there for you as well. But as you guys know, you can find this show pretty much anywhere you get your podcast content. We're out there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Good Pods, and GolfNewsNet.com. But as always, my biggest thanks, a huge dose of vitamin G for all of you for being the greatest supporters in the history of podcasts, bar none. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Until next time, hit 'em straight, my friends.
Thanks for joining Chris again this week on Next on the Tee. We hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we did. Please share the show with your golf buddies and be sure to follow it on Trib Live or your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Thanks for pressing play and being part of the journey. We'll see you next week, right here, where the best minds in golf share their stories.